Nigerians are once again faced with a hike in the price of fuel, with the cost surging to 1,030 naira per litre at Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited outlets. The increase follows NNPCL's decision to exit its role as a middleman in the Dangote refinery purchase deal. This means that the oil company will no longer cover the price gap between the facility's price and the selling cost to retailers. It previously absorbed a subsidy of 133 naira per litre. This sharp increase comes at a time when many are still battling with the high cost of living, rising inflation, and stagnant wages. For motorists and businesses, they rely on fuel, and this new hike will yet be another strain on their daily lives. The uncertainty surrounding the fuel market is causing anxiety. Many are wondering how much further prices will go. The Nigerian Labour Congress has condemned the pump price increase, insisting that a registered private company should not dictate fuel prices. Joining me tonight from Port Harcourt, Rivers State, is Billy Gillis-Harry. He's the President, Petroleum Products Retail Outlets Owners Association. Later on the show, we'll also be joined by Alex Neyin. He's the MD CEO of Gamok Nigeria Limited. He's an expert on energy and petroleum economics. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Right. So let's start with what's going on. In the past 2 days, there have been developments. The first one was that the NNPCL announced that it will no longer act as a go-between in the petroleum industry. That means that all marketers that sell petrol can now buy directly. The consequence also is that there will be an increase in the prices. First of all, what's your response to this news?
And this time, the way we have taken it is with a lot of equanimity. We had hoped that the conversation would have been different. But however, I think that what we want to worry ourselves right now as a very high point on this agenda is availability of petroleum products. If petroleum product is available and Nigerians can easily access them, that would be a plus. For prices, today, yes, the prices has gone up because as of yesterday, when we had our discussions, we didn't have any clarifications as to that. But this morning, we had a lot of updates on our usual channels of communication, and NNPC gave us information as to what has happened. And our approach is just to be equanimous at this time.
Right. So you've just mentioned that the prices have increased. It's now 1,013 naira. So between May last year and this year, it has been a 430% increase in prices. It's been slow, but it has gotten there. It's very steep, isn't it?
Well, the reality is that this of our economy ordinarily should have gone into full-blown deregulation from the pronouncement of Mr. President on the 29th of May 2023. And also, going by the provisions of the PIA, we started walking through the valley of this deregulation process and probably get into the peak where we should be able to know at what point prices will be high, at what point prices will be low. This hike in price that NNPC has in retail outlets today, by the way, 1,130 is only for Lagos. So in other climes, the prices are different. And we as retail outlet owners are still waiting for our usual channel of communication to be able to work out what our purchasing prices will be. And therefore, we will then know. Perhaps the price may not be as high as what you are seeing in the coming days. Because as you know, there must be quite a lot of variables that must have made this price to be in this way. And we hope, that we can be more transparent in our communication with Nigerians and all the stakeholders. That's what we want to expect going forward from now.
Okay, talking about transparency, when the president came into office, he did announce that subsidy was gone, but as we could see, there was still some payment being made, to close some gaps. But today, as we speak, it looks like it's happened finally. There is total deregulation in this sector. That remaining subsidy that was holding it, it's completely gone. Isn't that scary for you and for Nigerians?
Well, first, it's not scary. It is a hurdle that we must have to cross. But let me, on the brighter side, just make the mention of this. I do not know anywhere in this world today that petroleum product is sold per liter for less than $1. And if you go by our exchange rate today, you can see there's quite a lot, a lot of difference. So that clearly tells me that there is still some economic engineering that's been done to make sure that there is still a little bit of cushion. But we know that every one of us, Petron inclusive, has called for full deregulation. And we hope that we can walk this deregulation with the tenets of those values that we had earlier stated. Infrastructure, alternative methods of transportation, and application of the amount of money that's applied to subsidy to critical sectors of the national life, namely health, transportation, food, education, and massive infrastructural development, which is where we expect that our refineries should have long ago been put to action to help us to wade through these kind of situations that we're finding. But I want to be able to give credit to NNPC for being speedily responding. Even though they were not talking, they were trying to work out their process to keep us, who are their critical partners, informed. Petron is a critical partner of NNPC. We provide the means by which we should be able to expand petroleum product distribution to all the nooks and crannies of Nigeria. And we are the most critical last mile in the distribution value chain. So for them to consistently update us on what we need to do is what we will want. And we certainly sure that Nigerians will want that kind of situation and brace for the situation, because it's our country and we must have to work together to grow this country.
Well, there will be a lot of responses in the coming days. So from what you've said, are you implying that you and your group support this move now, the total deregulation that has happened?
Total deregulation, in my opinion, this price does not reflect a total deregulation. But we are here today. Is it Uhuru for us retail outlet owners who will suffer the most, because now from tomorrow, we're going to be looking for additional funds to be able to make sure that we complete the purchasing 1 liter of product for the number of liters that we've already paid for. And some of us were expecting these products to have been supplied to us a couple of we're here because of challenges of logistics and all of that. We are now caught up with the fact that we must have to go look for more funds to add up. Easy for us. And we also know that it's not easy for Nigerians. Whichever way we go, we must salvage our country. That is the point. And that is where we support the deregulation. So that the amount of money, we can't be borrowing trillions of naira to pay deregulation, to pay for a subsidy. We shouldn't do that. It doesn't make any good sense, because yes, we need to take the welfare of Nigerians very seriously, but this is one of those things that must be taken seriously, that we don't borrow to pay monies that are not actually making direct impact into our everyday life. Other than that, we are able to get enough fuel in our car and we are moving from one point to the other. And when you do a critical search of the heart and the process, you ask yourself, who are the people really that are going to benefit these trillions of naira subsidy? So yes, we support that subsidy should be removed and we should be fully deregulated, but the deregulation must have a human face. There must be a method of providing alternative source of energy to mobilize and motorize our economic pursuits daily. And this is where we thought that the CNG gas should have come into effect. The LPG gas, some of us today are using LPG to fire our home generators. So we do support it to the extent that we need to recalibrate and go back to the drawing board and find out what are the necessary short-term measures that we need to use, mid-term measures that need to be put in place, and long-term measures that need to be seen to be active. This is how I think the removal of subsidy and full deregulation is going to benefit Nigerians.
Well, you've just mentioned that Nigerians are facing a difficult time. Economic-wise, we're underperforming. So I would like to ask you, do you still think that this is a good time, though, to do this, bearing in mind the prevailing economic conditions in the country?
Timing is very critical in these policy decisions and their implementations. In my opinion, at this time, with the situation, we could have found a more better way to make sure that Nigerians do not, have additional pains, because certainly everybody is going to pay for it. Retail outlet owners will have products that will buy with hard-earned money with high costs, and we may end up having the products sitting down in our tanks without being sold in the speed that a 45,000 liter tank should be sold. 45,000 liter tank by the consumption rate in Port Harcourt, Calabar, Warri, Kaduna, Aba, Warri, Umuahia, 45,000 liters should be sold in less than 5 days. But now those products will be sitting down in our tank sometimes for maybe 4 weeks or even more. And that's going to be adding to the of our financial charges that we are going to be saddled with. So it's a challenge for all of us. But let us work first and ensure that there is availability of petroleum product. And I think that's what NNPC has done. That's what the government is also trying to do. And we hope that all of these factors will come together to give succor to the Nigerian public. And that is what I pray for, that's what I expect. That's what will also benefit me as an individual.
Well, you've made a good point here when you said that it's better to plow these trillions of naira or dollars that is spent on subsidy into infrastructure. There are a lot of people that are in agreement with that argument. But how are we sure that the government that could not stop or prevent corruption in the subsidy industry will be able to take that money and put it into where it should be used properly, utilized in infrastructure within the country? How are we sure that that money will still not be, will be utilized properly?
Well, I think that question, our president and his economic think tank, advisors. If I was a special advisor to the president on removing corruption in Nigeria, I would be that, and we do have solutions and answers to that. So let me not attempt to answer what is meant to be answered by the executive arm of government, the legislative arm, and also the judiciary.
Well, there are those who say that it's better to subsidize production rather than subsidizing consumption. Are you in that camp of people? Do you agree with that?
I am 100% in agreement with that point, that we should subsidize production. And once production is subsidized, of course, the costs of this felt by Nigerians. So I do support that, and that's one of the points that Petron has canvassed in the past 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, but then when we say that, we also have to make sure that the government will actually do that, because it's easy to say subsidy should be plowed into production. But if that doesn't happen, what was the point of removing the subsidy in consumption in the first place?
Well, in my opinion, this government is 1 year plus a couple of months, and we've been hearing quite a lot of, outcry, that the economy was very poor when it was handed over to the current administration. My prayer is that we should have been ready, to run, right on the start. So, but that is not the case. And how will the president run? He needs very, very sensitive, patriotic, qualified round pegs and round holes and square holes and square holes. So that way we should have been able to pursue every path. It is not in the multitude of laws and policies that we have generated as a country. We need to reduce the size of our talk and the size of our documents and make our actions, more pragmatic and effective. And I think that can still be done even between now and December, because it's a very simple thing to do. Who are those who are saddled with the responsibility to make Nigeria better? If they are not able to make that work, the president should think about changing them, getting better people to work, and ensure that this country starts to move. And there is no reason why we shouldn't make the president should not pursue that legacy. And that's what I will encourage and advise him.
So with deregulation comes a volatility of prices. Are you concerned about extreme fluctuation and what that would do to the economy?
Well, first, I just a couple of weeks ago, I walked into a gas station in Humble, Texas, and I bought gasoline, this PMS. I bought it at $2.59. And by the time I traveled to Dallas and back, at the same gas station, I bought it for $3.10. So it is a known factor that when a particular product is properly deregulated, the powers of demand are into place, and it will go up and then it will come down. So whichever way it goes, it will still keep business afloat. So I'm concerned to the extent that we should provide a way that Nigerians should be able to live and have that confidence that this country is about rising again.
I mean, the U.S. that you gave the example now, it's a highly developed economy. Yes. There are a lot of incentives for people, and then you have excellent public transport system, whether it's trains or buses. So there are options for people. So it's difficult to compare such economies and our economy where there are a lot of poor people. So what does this mean in the coming weeks? Because take transport, for instance. We don't have that a developed transport system. So what does this mean for us?
Well, it's really going to be a hard time, and I don't shy away from that, and I do sympathize with myself inclusive of Nigerians that we are in a season where our belt tightening is getting really too tight, and we are hoping that it should, it should get to the point where we should be relieved, and I think that the government is working towards getting that, done. Because whether we like it or not, we must live this country well. We must keep this country well. We must keep the citizens hoping and expecting that the renewed hope values will be entrenched in their daily lives. And that's just what I can say about that. Yes, I do know, and I agree with you, that some of these Western economies are highly developed and there are alternatives to everything. But I was just only letting you know that even in such economies that there's volatility of price, and sometimes it moves 2-3 times a day.
Do you
That's
think,
the point I'm trying to make.
Right, right. I got your point. Do you think that this deregulation will improve or increase investment in the energy sector?
Well, in my opinion, if an investor wants to, for instance, invest in the downstream and wants to bring a refinery, a gas reprocessing plant, or even a CNG plant, and he knows that he's going to for the product that he's going to produce, obviously, this will be an investment destination for him or her. So, but how this will happen is not necessarily because the regulation is certain. What will happen is that there must be policies, there must be stability, even our political activities must be stable. We must work other values that should give Nigeria that attraction as an investment destination. But right now, I do know that a lot of companies and countries are hoping to come into Nigeria to invest on refineries, because the Dangote refinery, 650,000 barrels, has already set a kind of tremor in the industry, because Nigeria is a country that has been importing quite a high volume of petroleum products. And today, we have a 650,000 barrels refinery sitting in Nigeria, and there are others coming. Other refineries are also coming that have been licensed and working very hard to come on board. Not as big as 650,000, but by the time all of these refineries come, we should be having at least close to 1.something million barrels of crude oil that should be refined in Nigeria. So I do postulate and project that removing subsidy, deregulating the downstream petroleum industry will certainly attract investors. But we need to do more than just removing subsidy or deregulating.
So how do you think all of this that is happening will affect the economy in the short, medium, and long term?
Really, we depend on PMS to run our industry. From the beans grinding machines, to powering our offices. We depend on fossil fuel. Most of us depending on petrol to do quite a lot of mobility. And this is not available, in good quantity and at a price that's affordable to Nigerian businessmen. It's going to affect the production. Productivity being affected negatively will impact the economy also. So this is why we are hoping and advising that the CNG project, classification project, which was started during the Buhari regime as INGEP and today moved on to become PCNGI, should, it should be made to be active in a very, very short while and very fast and effective, with all the values put together, the conversion kits, the conversion centers, training Nigerians to be able to do all of those conversion very efficiently, ensure that we are able to protect ourselves and give very, very sound safety measures for all of these facilities. And also provide, today we're having some mother stations around, but there are not enough daughter stations and enough converted vehicles to make that business viable. So we need to make sure that that works. So those are the kind of things I'm thinking that will grow the economy, very fast. That every day we have 200 million Nigerians working and bringing in just a little bit of income. If 200 million Nigerians bringing in just as little as 100 naira income daily into the system, compute that, you will get to know what our GDP should be. So removing a subsidy, deregulating is completely acceptable to us, but let us do all the other things that will make our economy to grow.
So all these other things you're talking about, they will take time to manifest. Seeing the kind of country we live in and the kind of public officers we have. Historically, fuel prices have, caused protests. Do you see that there could likely be some unrest and protests in the coming months? Because by the time it gets to 1,500, it's going to affect every other thing, totally everything.
Let me give you the other part of my thinking. How do you make an economy to be vibrant? You create jobs. You make sure that there is industrial activities, industrial revolution, if you like. And just only these two activities, with enough input from all of our youths, our women, and what they are doing that will be productive, they should have sufficient money to be happy in the life they want to live. In fact, I am thinking that by now we should have produced what is called the Nigerian dream, where we should have certain specifics that should make us to live a fulfilled life. So for those who will want to threat about protests, my advice is that we've seen a lot of protests and it has not brought any result. So I'm going to encourage Nigerians not to protest, but let us think out of the box, work with the president, work with all of his appointees, and see how we can change the activities in this country to bring productivity. Make sure that there's employment. If there is adequate employment, bridges are being built, roads are being constructed, and salaries are being paid, not just talking about some minimum salary. Salary that is adequate for relief for the livelihood of any average Nigerian, and a wife and at least 2 children. So once we are doing that, there will be no reason why we'll be thinking about protest. Because we'll all be busy economically making sure that we're generating income. And that's what I will advise for us to do. But that does not mean that if a policy is wrong, that it should not be pointed out.
Okay, Mr. Gillis-Harry, thank you for joining us on the program.